So the National Conservative Conference happened not too long ago, and we got to see some of the biggest hitters in the conservative movement come to this conference to share their view on what conservatism is here in Israel, because what we have now is just not conservatism. Did you guys watch? Well, you actually couldn't watch because they didn't stream it. Instead, they released certain clips, and we've seen a range of different things, from someone basically making light of the Holocaust, saying that why don't we get to express nationalism just because the Germans mucked it up, to all sorts of other weird things said about what there was this odd thing that said a nuclear family is a mother and a father staying together for the sake of the kids, and you go, okay, that's kind of odd coming from the...
That's a beautiful vision. That's a beautiful vision.
I was like, right. So all these haphazard things have happened, but yeah, what's your kind of just first take on that whole conference?
Starkey's a dick.
I stopped liking Starkey when in 2011, during the London riots, he was on Newsnight for a conversation, and he said the quintessential problem with the London riots is the whites have become the blacks. No, the whites have become the blacks. I couldn't believe he said it on national TV.
Interesting.
And here we are, more than a decade later, and he's still kind of
racist. It's fair enough. Anyway, we're not talking about Starkey being a racist.
I mean, he was there. So, what was that your biggest takeaway?
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing that I heard people talking about. Although I did also see the Braverman clip as well. But I think beyond that, and I think there was a bit on what's his name, tall, foppish.
Jacob
Rees-Mogg. Always forget his name now because he's no longer in government, thank fuck.
Yeah.
I'm giving some hard opinions earlier.
What you know is, I actually like Jacob Rees-Mogg. Not his politics. I just think he's like, I was telling someone this the other day, he's like a throwback. He's just another period in time where people are like, yes, I do agree. But
he's a throwback to worse times.
Yeah.
I'm not saying something. We've just been through a pandemic.
I like his politeness. Apparently, he makes his own cider, which is cool.
I love it.
My big takeaway is
scraping
why I like
the bottom of the barrel.
He makes his own cider. Right. What about his kid's name, Sextus? Do you like that? Do you think
his kid's called Sextus?
His kid's called Sextus. Yeah. His sixth child is called Sextus.
I think there's something about rich and powerful men often.
You didn't even know that.
Deciding to name their kids.
I'm not a real fan. I like to think I know stuff, but I didn't know that. Wow.
Mate,
because you had him with Sextus, you've got Elon Musk with X, and then other abbreviated hexadecimal.
Elon Musk's child's called X.
Yes, it's an
Dude,
abbreviation.
are you in the news at all, bro?
This is actually quite scary because why didn't I know this?
So it's basically, I think it's a phenomenon. Rich and powerful people want to have names that are unique, interesting, different identifiers. So Rees-Mogg has gone with the the Roman names, I guess, of Sextus.
Well, he likes incredibly old-timey names is probably the best way I can describe it. He's incredibly traditional. I believe he's Catholic, if I'm not getting that.
Yeah, he's Catholic.
You can tell by that.
Oh, sorry. Sextus is wrong. It's Sixtus. So his...
See, that's it. I know Sixtus.
But it's Sixtus, Dominic, Boniface, Christopher, presumably Rees-Mogg, Thomas Wentworth, Somerset, Dunstan, Rees-Mogg, and Mary Ann, Charlotte, Emma Rees-Mogg, Peter Theodore,
no. We can.
So I actually love the name Theodore, but I think we're getting...
One of his kids' middle names is Wulfric. That's pretty cool. We're getting off topic.
I think for me...
We are. So this conference, central thing, what's the takeaway from this conference?
I think my issue with it, that you could find with somebody like Jacob Rees-Mogg or with others talking about this is how the family should be, or this is how the ideal family should be, or with Douglas Murray downplaying the Holocaust, talking about this was just Germans mucking up. Mucking up was the term he used in terms of their nationalistic furor. And it just very much resembles a sort of cocktail, if you like, of bad ideas. And I think one of the key unifiers of these bad ideas...
You're so proud of that. You're like, cocktail of bad ideas.
I think one of the unifying themes between these bad ideas is that it sort of harks back to what I would describe as a sort of imaginary past. They sort of, rosy-hilled Britain where, everybody was traditional and polite and respectful. And, the issue is it doesn't really reflect history entirely as it is.
It doesn't really reflect conservatism as well, especially modern conservatism, because for a large part, the conservatives have been the one who've architected this sort of new society we have. Not least because they've been in power for the past decade and a bit, but also because gay marriage was legalized under the Conservative Party. The king doesn't have a normal nuclear family of two people that stay together for the sake of the kids.
If anything,
that's another topic. So you kind of wonder who they talking to, because the UK, the British societies we have now, isn't full of people who agree with that. I mean, maybe they just thought the culture war stuff is going to be enough to. So I don't know if you saw the speech by the headmistress, who was talking about kind of tweeting under your own name, taking your kids out of woke schools, and you kind of go, they might be drumming this thing up more than it actually has kind of currency in the UK, because most people in the UK aren't going to be moved by some of the things they said in this conference.
No, 100%. You have Lee Anderson, the chairman at present of the Conservative Party, who did state that the next general election, from his perspective, will be fought on, cultural issues. And I think that, if you like, is a reaction. The Conservatives are down in the polls, as we know, according to some, by up to 10, 15, 20 points at times.
20 points? I haven't seen 20 points.
I've seen 20 points at times.
Wow.
40 to 20 something. And perhaps this is a reaction. This is what happens when you push a rat, perhaps might be a strong word, but you push a creature into a corner and it tends to, do interesting things. And I think the Conservative Party, recognizing that it is in this sort of wilderness, and might be in the political wilderness if they go into opposition, is looking for its soul. I think this represents a fringe group. People are more worried about paying their bills than about drag story time, but it does represent, if you like, perhaps an undercurrent of anger, perhaps just at the present state of affairs.
I mean, I think the whole thing was the target audience was the party members, right?
Yeah.
And they were the ones who voted in Liz Truss over Rishi, and quite frankly, I think most 90% of people who weren't Conservative members would have said that's the wrong move. I'm saying 90% as if I have a figure there. No, I don't. But it feels like that was the wrong decision. They made the wrong decision. And, people have had various reasons why they think that wrong decision was made. Some of them I agree with. But my point is that this is not the general public. This is not the general group. And this Conservative Party has shifted itself more and more and more into a position, you said, into a corner. I think that they've bought into their own hype. They're the dog that chased the car, but now they've got to the car. And now they don't know what to do now that they've got to the car.
Don't you think it's fascinating as well? If you think about it, what's happening on the left is basically happening on the right. In that, the Conservative Party, as you said, Israel, it's clear that they're searching for their soul. They're soul searching. They are preparing for a period in opposition. You've got all these new people trying to posit themselves as potential leaders. And this kind of happened as well with Labour. After Labour kind of got defeated, there was a hard swing towards momentum, and momentum was sort of carrying Labour for a while, and Labour was talking to itself, and feeling really good and very left-wing behind its leader, Jeremy Corbyn. When they came to the election, he was thwarted, and in the worst result for Labour since 1970, whatever it was.
Didn't speak to anyone else.
And so the new leader said, well, how do we get Labour out of this sort of momentum bubble where it's talking to its core members and getting really kind of, loud about its core issues? How do we get it away from there into the centre ground again to win? And maybe this is what's happened with the Conservative Party. In that, again, they're talking through that NatCon to this kind of small group of true blue Tories who don't represent the large swath of the electorate. So maybe they'll do that for a bit in opposition, and they'll put up this kind of leader that will be a champion of the culture wars. In fact, just a few days ago, Lord Ashcroft announced that he was going to be writing a book about Kemi Badenoch, basically bigging her up before she tries to be probably the leader whilst they're in opposition.
They're already preparing to lose, yeah.
Absolutely. So maybe this is just a period of soul searching that the Conservative Party will go for, where they're going to play to a very small crowd that's very loud, and then realise that actually most of the British public won't be excited by you talking about a mum and a dad staying together for the sake of the kids. Like, that's not going to be what gets people excited, especially in this culture, this modern culture.
I do think it depends on how badly they lose, right? Because it's very easy for us to sit here, spoiler alert, we're in London. It's very easy to sit here in London and go, this is exactly what it's like. This is what it should be like. This is what modern culture is like. The moment you get 30 miles outside of here, people's opinions do start to change, and they do start to be more fixed and more conservatively aligned and closer to what the Conservatives are talking about. But they're going too far. Like even from my perspective,
I think playing down the Holocaust is probably too far.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, from my personal...
No, I agree with you.
Yeah, right?
I agree with you.
You know, it's easy for us to sit here with our opinions, but even for people who... And we talk about the red wall switching over all the time, right? When the red wall switched over, the reason why was because they thought they'd get a better deal going with the Conservatives this time.
Yeah.
And that hasn't happened. And that's what people actually really care about, is how am I going to feed my family before you start telling me who should be in my family, right? Like, this hasn't gone well, and it hasn't gone down well.
Well, on the last note, next leader of the Conservative Party, who should it be? Yisrael. It's a quick fire round.
Starkey.
Well,
it means they'll lose.
No. I think. Well, yeah.
Go give me a name. Give me a name. It's a fast round. Come on.
Somebody who believes in proportional representation.
Oh,
It's a cop-out.
Boo.
That's not a name.
Who do you think?
Who do I think? This is. I think that you're probably going to be looking at Hunt. I think Hunt's probably.
No, I don't think so.
I think that's probably your best bet. If you're a Conservative and you want to win, I think Hunt's probably your best bet. Actually.
Okay, ask me really quickly.
Who do you think?
Matt Hancock.
Refer to another episode for that. Fucking joyous.